What happens when criticism goes too far? Coco Gauff isn't staying silent. The American superstar has found herself at the center of a heated conversation involving two of the biggest names in women's tennis, Aryna Sabalenka and Iga Swiatek. And now, Gauff is pushing back against the kind of criticism that can turn elite competition into unnecessary drama. But here's what makes this story so interesting. This isn't simply about Coco Gauff. It's about how the biggest stars in women's tennis are treated when they win, when they lose, and when they fail to meet impossible expectations. Sabalenka has faced criticism. Swiatek has faced criticism. Gauff has faced criticism. And now, Coco appears ready to make one thing clear. Being a champion doesn't mean you have to accept every opinion thrown at you. So what exactly happened? Why are Sabalenka and Swiatek at the center of this discussion? And why has Coco Gauff's response caught so much attention? Let's break it all down. The pressure on tennis superstars. Professional tennis looks glamorous from the outside. Huge stadiums, massive crowds, trophies, millions of fans. But behind all of that is an incredible amount of pressure. For players like Coco Gauff, Aryna Sabalenka and Iga Swiatek, every match is analyzed. Every mistake becomes a headline. Every loss becomes a question. And every victory creates a new expectation. That's the reality of becoming a superstar. But sometimes the criticism can become unfair. A player can dominate for months and then lose one match, and suddenly people question everything. That's where the conversation surrounding Sabalenka and Swiatek becomes especially interesting. Belarus Aryna Sabalenka's never-ending expectations. Aryna Sabalenka has established herself as one of the most powerful forces in women's tennis. Her aggressive game, explosive ground strokes, and intimidating intensity have made her one of the toughest opponents on tour. But success creates expectations. When you're ranked among the world's best, fans don't simply expect you to compete. They expect you to win. And when you don't, the criticism can arrive instantly. One bad performance can suddenly become a discussion about form, mentality, or whether a player is still capable of dominating. That's an incredibly difficult standard. And it's something Coco Gauff understands. Iga Swiatek faces the same problem. Then there's Iga Swiatek. The Polish superstar has already built one of the strongest resumes in modern women's tennis. Her consistency, movement, and ability to dominate from the baseline have made her one of the defining players of her generation. But even Swiatek isn't immune to criticism. In fact, the bigger the player becomes, the more intense the scrutiny becomes. People analyze her technique, her mentality, her scheduling, her losses, her performances against certain opponents. And sometimes criticism moves beyond tennis analysis. That's where the conversation becomes complicated. Coco Gauff knows what it feels like. If there's one player who understands this pressure, it's Coco Gauff. Gauff became a global star at an incredibly young age. And with that fame came enormous expectations. Whenever she lost, people questioned her. Whenever she won, people immediately asked whether another title was coming. Even after winning the US Open, the pressure didn't disappear. It increased. Suddenly, winning wasn't enough. She had to keep winning. She had to improve. She had to prove that her Grand Slam victory wasn't a one-time achievement. So when Gauff speaks about criticism directed at other elite players, it's easy to understand why the subject matters to her. She knows exactly what that spotlight feels like. Fire why Coco's response matters. The important part of this story isn't simply whether Gauff agrees with Sabalenka or Swiatek. It's the bigger message. Elite athletes are human beings. They have good days. They have bad days. They make tactical mistakes. They lose matches. And sometimes they simply run into an opponent who plays better tennis. That doesn't erase everything they accomplished before. And Gauff's position in this conversation is especially powerful because she is competing against these same players. She isn't watching from the sidelines. She's part of the battle. She knows how difficult it is. Cross-swords rivalry doesn't have to mean disrespect. Women's tennis is at its best when rivalries create excitement without turning into personal attacks. Gauff versus Sabalenka. Gauff versus Swiatek. Sabalenka versus Swiatek. These are matchups fans want to see. They create drama. They create anticipation. And they push the players to become better. But there's an important difference between sporting rivalry and unnecessary negativity. A player can defeat you on court without becoming your enemy. And a player can lose without suddenly becoming a failure. That's a message that deserves more attention. So where does this leave us? Is criticism becoming too extreme in women's tennis? Should fans give players like Sabalenka and Swiatek more respect after everything they've accomplished? And is Coco Gauff right to push back when she believes criticism crosses the line? There probably isn't one simple answer. Fans have every right to analyze matches. They can criticize performances. They can debate rankings. They can disagree with decisions. But there's a difference between discussing tennis and attacking the people playing it. And that distinction is becoming more important than ever. Coco Gauff, Aryna Sabalenka, and Iga Swiatek aren't just three tennis players. They're three of the biggest stars shaping the next era of women's tennis. And every time they step onto the court, the expectations get bigger. The criticism gets louder. And the pressure gets heavier. But perhaps the most powerful response isn't an argument. It's performance. Let the racket do the talking. Let the results answer the critics. And when Coco, Sabalenka, and Swiatek meet again on the biggest stages, the only thing that should matter is who can handle the pressure better. So now we want to hear from you. Do you agree with Coco Gauff's stance on criticism targeting Aryna Sabalenka and Iga Swiatek? Tell us what you think in the comments. And if you want more Coco Gauff, Aryna Sabalenka, Iga Swiatek, and US Open updates, make sure to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications. Because the next chapter of this rivalry could be absolutely explosive.